think fin positioning is probably the biggest and most overarching thing that gets understudied or put in the wrong place.
And when you're designing a board, are you designing it for a certain body type, or like if you're doing a custom, or
right.
Are you designing it more for like a certain wave or a certain style of riding? Like what goes into your thoughts on a custom?
It's a great question. I had a 54-minute conversation with the next customer this morning, and I remember it clearly because I looked at those like, wow, that time went by. But he's 6'5.5". He surfs in Rhode Island. 95% of his waves are on his backhand. And we got halfway through and I was like, I'm pretty clear about this, but you're going to have to send me footage of your surfing. Do you have any? And he's like, oh yeah, I do. And he's like, it's not good. I was like, I don't care what the footage is. I wanted to see the way he moves because I couldn't see him walking through the shop. I could see he wore the size 12 shoe. Like there were a lot of things I could see. And when I saw him surf, he's new to surfing, but he's actually got incredible leverage, and his wingspan was so big that what he's able to do on a board, nobody else can unless you're that size, right? So I always look at people's strengths and then design around their frustrations. So what do you want to do? What are you able to do? And then what do we need to let you do that? You haven't asked any questions.
What percent?
Blake has a question.
I was going to ask, like, especially with that single fin that you were just showing us,
right.
How do you determine, like, I noticed you have one wing on the one side. How do you determine, like, where that wing is? Like, how far away from the tail it is? How deep the channel on the side is?
That's a very good question. So imagine this board symmetrically, made a ton of those. So this, like where that fin is and the relationship between where I know I can get my foot when I take off. You know when you stand up on a board and your feet in the wrong place?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're too rushed and you can't move it. And then sometimes you stand up on a board on an expected takeoff and you're always in the right place. That comes into play. So with that and without having the efficiency of a hum that could be caused with a side fin, I was free to play. So that confidence came from doing this board symmetrically. It was a different board, but the points of where those things were, I remember. So lovely question. Yeah, I mean, that's 1978. It's like stuff's all been done before. And the reason I chose that on the toe side is look how much straighter this rail is. Like if you had a little wing here, you'd have so I want as straight as I can. So embracing the straight rail on the toe.
So if I understand you correctly, it seems like part of this asymmetrical theory, you would take a board that would say be like 19 wide, and you would have your center point, and you keep your center box there, and you widen the back side, the heel side, so that it has more curve. And is that what sets your center kind of off center? How do you do it then?
It's a good question, and let's get there a different way and see if it's more efficient. So if this was the board and the wide points were here, well, when you stand on any board, your feet are always going to be toe forward, okay? So that means I don't care where the design is. Let's say it's a wide point forward design. It's always going to be more forward on your toes. So because I jog the wide points, whether it's forward or back, they're always going to be in relationship to each other. Because I've pulled this wide point back on the heel, it actually lets me stay straighter for longer. And then when I do come into this change with the twisted rocker, I can accelerate it quicker because I've got the wide point further back. That's why I can get away with this much change on small boards. Once you get a bigger board, I'm expecting you to move your feet. You don't need as much asymmetrical change because you're moving. But if you're not stuck, but essentially choosing your stance and where you plant it, those changes are demanded. Does that make sense? As a board designer, like you can imagine that. Move your wide point back, and now you've got a quicker acceleration to come through your fin cluster.
Yeah. And then what percent are you doing poly versus EPS in your manufacturing?
I only glass with epoxy.
Okay.
So all the boards get glassed with epoxy. I've been riding a lot more poly, especially for critical waves, warm water, Hawaii, like those kinds of boards. I embrace polyester, the feeling of the way those boards sit in the water, but I still glass them with epoxy. It's probably 80% EPS. Okay. But I do embrace a 2.3 pounds or the densest I can, which people don't like to work with and machines don't like cutting, but for a hand shaper it works good. And you wanting the board not to have so much weight, but you want as hard a core as you can, so you don't have a soft core and a hard shell, and there's a dissociation. These boards are probably the best example of where that can go. So that's a double bottom. So single flax, drop in stringer, cap with a 4, double 4 deck. Some of them have triple 4. I mean, this board was probably 5.7 pounds. I mean, I don't want it any lighter. And yes, it's as strong as I could possibly build. And with, like, it's got a ring to it, you know? I mean, this thing is built for web systems.
So why 444 and not a 6? You said earlier you don't do 6.
Well, if you're simply adding heavier duty construction to something, you're going to start locking it up. And yes, it will be stronger, but I'm wanting this board to twist. And this board's really thin. It's just over 2 1/4 thick by choice. So because the board, I'm not expecting it to only flex, I'm expecting it to twist too. In my opinion, just the more you just start littering the shell with the extra cloth, it starts locking that up. Okay, let's say it was flax on the bottom, flax on the deck, so that would be 4 and 4. It's close to, it's like 375, 4 and 4, and you capped with 6. When's the last time you ordered a board with a 6/4 bottom, 6/4 deck, and a stringer? Like, I have issue with that. This week's going to be interesting when Stab drops the new episode. But it's like, yeah, of course it's stronger, but I just don't know that the board's as lively, as durable, as, like, I can do that because I know what that board can endure, right? So you can't just keep throwing fiberglass at a problem and fix it. You imagine the whole thing not to be changed in the way it feels. And yet for good big waves, like guns for sure, you know? Different platform. Yeah.
What would you say to a traditional performance shortboarder who's thinking about a board like this? Do you think that these are more performance, or are these something experimental to kind of change your perspective on surfing? Or like, what would you say to like that core guy who's like, maybe I want to try an asym, but I'm like kind of nervous about it?
I'm going to repeat the question to make sure we capture it. So are these boards simply asymmetric by concept, or are they an alternative category? For me, asymmetric changes an application of design to any board. So if you're a performance surfer looking to try something different, well, why throw away your performance ability? You need to make a performance asymmetrical board. So the changes made, asymmetrical changes in my world to which stance you have. So it shouldn't limit. All the changes are made to embrace your power points and mitigate the frustrations. So if a performance surfer is having issue with whether to embrace it, I'm like, well, the leverage of your body is still different heel to toe. So with your performance ability, I think you could surf even better, because the opportunity at hand is efficiency. If you dig rail less on your heel, or you can have a tighter angle of attack like somebody with an incredible technique, then the problem is they're harder to build and harder to buy and harder to understand. So I don't judge them for it, but you shouldn't need to relearn your surfing. All these changes I endure so that you can enjoy your surfing more. And we don't only want to make surfing easier, to your question. If you constantly design things to be easier and easier and easier, you're going to land up in a place where surfing's not going to feel maybe like what you knew it could. So how much do you go this way? Well, what do you want your surfing to feel like? How accurately do you want to surf? I think accurately is the best choice of words I can choose right now. Are you surfing accurately? Meaning, like, I'll build people boards that have motor accidents, bad knee, a smaller leg, like radical compromise. Their body type, for them to go to the beach, if you watch them and you are critiquing their technique, and it's like, okay, well, here are the limitations. But if they surf to their utmost ability within those limitations, that's good. Why do they need to do that? Well, they need to apply themselves to the best degree they've understood surfing, but then the board shouldn't get in the way. Or it should be able to help them get that to the max, their ability.
So off the record or on the record, does Stab pay the shapers to build the boards?
No.
I didn't think so.
No. I got that call. I was on the way to Hawaii on a big project. They called me. I was the last guy that called, and somebody turned the opportunity down.
Yeah.
And they wrote this in the press release. And I looked at that as an opportunity to. I swung for the fence. I've never built the board I built before.
Yeah.
For Dave, and I was like, okay, the opportunity at hand here was to push design. Like, none of these boards you're probably going to buy. You're definitely not going to buy all of them. But hopefully they make you think about your surfing better. So if Stab's got such a big platform, and now we've got Flax on the line, my designs, Dave's surfing. I think that's the most understudied one. It's like, this guy doesn't want to look like a kook.
Yeah.
He's the best surfer in the world, roughly. I think so.
Yeah.
He's our favorite surfer, and now it's like he could look shitty on a wave. We forget that, but that ego is as much involved as my design out there. The stab audience, if they don't like it, they don't get to get people subscribing. So because of all that, I was like, you know what, the best thing we can do is swing for the fence, because it's not going to be more interesting to anybody else except for they're going to think about their own surfing more, design more. They're going to buy these boards, they're going to buy my boards, but they might think about any board better. They might think about the way they surf better at best. No, did not get paid.
Yeah.
Had to build 2 boards.
And when you're watching Dave surf, what were you focusing on for the board build?
I couldn't see, my tears were just streaming.
Did you watch a lot of him surfing before building the board? Like,
Oh, no.
and his,
No, I was so rushed. I had 4 days to build that board. It was a scramble just to get it done. Gosh, I walked into my shaping bay. I started shaping. My neighbor got in his car. He drove to Ventura, picked up some flax, drove back. I started laminating. It was such a team effort. It was raining. It was such a rainstorm. And like he was like, I'll drive it. It's like he drove it, picked up, turned around, drove out. So it was such a rush. I remember what Dave surfing looks like from growing up and watching video. I did watch, to your point, I designed a board around fins. So I designed the board around his twin trailer template, knowing that he knows those fins. So the controlled variable would be like, I know what these fins do. What's this board going to do? Where am I comfortable? Okay, at least I can put these in to start with. I'm not exactly sure which fins he rode because I did design some others and build some for him. When I watched the Futures clip on him describing those fins, he talks about what he likes in a surfboard. And that was the only little pieces of information that I took as art direction. And he doesn't like straight lines. He likes the geometrical repeat. You look at those fins and they've got that golden ratio, the spiral graphic. That's Dave. This is like the whole thing's connected, the universe and the whole. And so he's in that world. And so we had to use the colors they gave us, which I absolutely hated. And I'm like, all right, well, that's the brief. It's Dave. It's these colors. It's Flax, and it was supposed to be Morocco. So those were outlaid, and I was like, okay, well, how do we interrupt his mind? So I was like, we put straight lines on with the worst colors that I had to use in front of him, so that he's like, okay, what am I on? It was a brave choice, and I don't know if it worked well, but it was definitely at play. Yeah, let's we'll see what happens. Yeah, he's a cool dude. I got to meet him, and like more than anything, you meet your heroes, and they turn out to be not your heroes. Dave's a real deal.
I got to watch him surf a 16-foot wooden board in the pass.
Yep.
It's just amazing. He can handle any board, so that's what I was wondering if that was going into your head.
No, but he becomes Superman because you see him either there or on screen and you're like, wow, amazing to just feel one of those turns. But he's just the coolest dude. Like he remembered my daughter's name and he said goodbye later. And I said, bye, Olive. And she looked at me with these big eyes. I'm like, yeah, what a guy, man. He's a real deal. And that's like I started tonight just saying like, hey, all the boards aside, let's go for a swim. Like we're in this together, you know, like this is, gosh, we're lucky, man. pretty amazing, huh? What do you reckon, like? Pretty cool.
I was gonna ask after a couple months ago, there was a clip of John Florence catching a million good waves. He found out later that his board was an asym by accident, and that it was working better for him. Do you see an implementation of like asym boards into pro surfing eventually?
100%. Yeah, the amount of variables you have to control are endless, and the more you're controlling them, the more things could go wrong. It's like ingredients in the pantry don't make a better tasting dish. You got to cohesively assemble them. I think that board that you're referencing had a twist in it, and they missed the study, and I think Aloe spoke on that. That is something you could program on a computer. Scaling it between files would take some incredible accuracy. I think we could make John 100 of them. It doesn't seem difficult to me. It's not my world. I don't know that world, but I do know the difference between a rocker that's twisted and not. So there it is. It's like, did that work? Yes. Why? Is it deniable? Can't deny that. Can we replicate it? That's up to the big boys. The big boys meaning, do they want to add one more element that's going to make it harder to sell? Look at these boys. They're littered with details, and some of them just get in the way. If John wants it, we'll get it.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, but it's also like, okay, what do you want? What do you want? Like, where are the frustrations? Like half of the boards don't even apply to you. So until John doesn't want a board that isn't twisted, it's probably going to be a long time coming.
I know from working in glass shops for years and stuff, like some people have always said like the accidental twist ended up being an excellent board.
Mm.
You know, have you ever done a symmetrical board with a twist, like, you know, shaped in, like as a starting point or a jumping off point?
I'm trying to think. No, I haven't, but I saw Terry Martin shape one. Yeah. He was copying a Mike Diffender, I believe, at the boardroom show, and the board had a twist in it, and he shaped it in. There.
No way.
And he lost the contest for it. And they're like,
he should have won.
well, listen, so like these things are recreatable, but maybe take this thought home. Just imagine a symmetrical board with this fin just 3/8 over towards your ankle, like towards your heel, the way you pivot. Like just imagine one small change, and that's not what I'm going to do or what I promote, but just imagine one little change and the effect it could make.
Yeah.
And if that feels better, well, now we're in Donny water. Like it's an endless hairball, which is fun. Yeah. Wow, we talked a lot.
Yeah.
Was this helpful? I don't know. Okay. What's the most confusing thing? Because rather ask now. Because welcome.
Yeah, sorry, late.
We were just starting over here. They're laughing because it took forever to go. Okay, let's do this. If you have any questions, please come speak to me about anything. I probably won't know, but if I do, I'll be more than happy to share. If you're looking to buy a surfboard today, great. If you're not, why don't you just walk around and after what I've said, imagine yourself, what you're able to do, what you want to do, and what you think you need to do that. Pick 3 boards. Come to me and say, okay, this is my story. These are the boards that if I can help, if any of these guys are so well versed can help, that's fine. You don't have to buy a board, but think about what I've talked about and how it applies to you, because that you can pay forward. And if there's one thing that I'd like to see change in surfing is other people helping other people surf. Like, why isn't that the norm? I do think it's coming. When's the last time you got out of the water and a guy was like, hey, you know when you're bottom turning, you need to pull your elbow in? Never happened, right? I think it's coming. So we can be the change we want to see. The way you surf is always more important than what you ride. Thank you for having me and hosting me. Thank you for the food. Thank you for your business. This is a business. Support these guys. Costs to do stuff, to pay rent in California, but we're into stuff, surfing stuff. This matters. So thank you for, to me, a service in the community is the way I see it. I think I read online the biggest collection of used boards in the world. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a museum. Do you know what I mean? Like you're known for a collection.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Honored to be part of that. Okay, Isabel, are we dismissed?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Feel free to look at these boards, pick them up. Feel like they're not for sale, but this is where Flax has gone. I don't know if people are going to try to play with it. The reality is the tariffs. That's imported cloth from Australia, which I hate because everything's American-made materials. We don't get Flax in America. It's crazy. It's an Australian brand. The tariffs just went through the roof. The Rasta, it's a perfect storm. The Rasta project dropped. Everyone wants Flax, and the tariffs just went through the roof because apparently the government was subsidizing the glass factory. So it's pretty radical, but those boards are going to get really, really, really expensive soon.
Flex is a type of fiberglass, or
It's plants. That's
plants?
yeah, the flaxseed, the grass.
Oh,
So yeah, as a substitute for fiberglass. So in Dave's board, I only used it. That's why it was so brown, because I went on off-axis bias, double bottom, triple deck. That's single layer of Flax on the bottom with clear glass over it and double deck. But yeah, it's I have some in the van. I'll need to go grab some. It's fun to see, and it's fun to see new materials coming into the surf space. Yeah.
Pull up the clip of Jim Banks at the Padang Cup this year.
Yeah.
Right, his Flax twin fin there.
Who shaped that one?
He shaped it himself.
Oh, epic.
Yeah. I mean, he's been shaping boards for Uluwatu and Padang for 40 years out there.
Yeah.
But he's doing exclusively the Flax boards.
Was it Flax basalt or just Flax?
Oh, I don't know that.
Was it a lighter brown?
It was like purple. So he does a weird.
Oh, interesting.